Well, let's test this out. We all seem to be working here this morning. Good morning, everybody. 7:15 New Zealand time. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286. That satisfies the authorities. And it is Friday the 17th, and we have 16 degrees today. Now, that's a change from the usual 13. 16 degrees because we've got a little bit of wind, all of 6 knots from the northeast or east-northeast. It's not very much out there. 100% cloud cover, not a very pleasant looking day, just grey, but at least it's a bit warmer. 1005 decimal 9. I didn't even look which direction it was going. What direction would that be going anyway? Doesn't matter, that's where it is, and it's just grey. It doesn't look as if it's too bad for you guys up there in the tropics looking at the satellite picture, just a bit of cloud around too. There's only one person that I've got on the go here, and that's Tregoning, and they've got nice trade winds between Vanuatu and Fiji, 13 knots from the southeast. But if you guys are listening, Alison and Randall, you need to get a move on because there is a front coming, so it would be good if you got into Port Vila by lunchtime on Monday, so you better start moving a little bit faster than 4.5 knots to do that. All right, I'll just do a pause to see if there's anything urgent from you guys. You're probably all in bed. I actually felt like staying in bed this morning too, I must admit. And then when the paper came, there was quite an interesting article on the need for sleep. Evidently, a good night's sleep affects the brain and memory, of course. And the article was all about, can you store it up if you're going to have a real heavy weekend, and can you sort of get a bit of sleep in at the start and then have a jolly good sleep on Sunday night. But it evidently doesn't work that way too well. If you have a really late night on Friday night and Saturday night, then evidently you'll have a bit of a struggle getting to sleep on Sunday because the body sort of reorganizes itself. I was interested in the article because of the effect on jet lag, because this year I suffered incredibly from jet lag, and I suspect it might be due to the aging process, but boy, I certainly took almost a week to recuperate from the 40 hours I didn't sleep on the way over to Europe. So yeah, it does affect you, and the older you get by the sound of it, although they didn't mention that in the article. They were more looking at what it did to the brain and the body if you didn't sleep regularly. So that was quite interesting.
I'm going to bed.
Oh, you're going to bed, all right. Actually, there were a lot of articles in the paper this morning, a lot of them in the business section on the New Zealand Herald, which is actually not one of the world's greatest papers, but on Friday it has a whole pull-out section for business. And it doesn't look as if the world is in great shape economically. They're all talking about how prepared we are for the next downturn, and of course there's a lot of hiccups in the system at the moment. The trade war between China and the US is having its effect on quite a few people. Turkey, of course, is really struggling because of the embargo that the US has put on. These major players do have a big part to play in everybody's economy, really. Australia, the dollar has fallen quite significantly against the US dollar, 9% in recent weeks, and it's fallen even more considerably against the Chinese yuan, which is quite significant for Australia. Our dollar, of course, is down. It's about 65.8 against the US, and Australia at the moment is about 72, but they're predicting it to actually drop below 70 by the end of the year. So all is not looking very bright on the world economic situation. So I guess it's actually better to not have to be too tied into all of that system, and hopefully you're out there enjoying cruising and not worrying about it. There was a bit more in the paper actually about the census results. I mentioned yesterday that Auckland is very ethnically diverse. We're evidently the 4th most ethnically diverse city in the world. 39% already of our current residents were born overseas. That's an amazing number, 39% born overseas. And the prediction is by, I think it was 2020 something anyway, for our population to be 35% Asian, which it's getting quite high at the moment, 35% Asian, and South Pacific Islanders 16.5%. So it certainly changes the way Auckland is managed. Anyway, let's go over to Oz again. Bushfires. Now this is August, and usually you don't get bushfires in August, but there are about 80 of them in New South Wales. Just the drought. Everything is just so incredibly dry over there. So boy, it's not going to be a very good summer on the coast of Australia because of the drought. It's incredibly dry in New South Wales. For those music lovers, Aretha Franklin died. She went downhill rapidly this last week, and she died. She was only 76. I thought she might have been a bit older than that, but she was 76. So another good musician, no longer with us. I haven't talked much about what's been going on in the Middle East. It sort of drags on, doesn't it? A bit like the Vietnam War dragged on. You sort of stopped reading the news. But boy, it has been a very bad week in Afghanistan. The Taliban have really had some very good wins from their perspective in this last week and killed an awful lot of people. They stormed a strategic city, Ghazni. I don't even know where that is, but Ghazni, killed hundreds. That was Friday. On Tuesday, they killed about 39 soldiers in Baghlan province. They overran a base there. They overran another base, killing 17. There's been dozens killed by ISIS in another area. There are evidently, although they haven't given it much publicity, talks going on between the Taliban and the US. The US wanted them to talk to the Afghan government, but that was never going to happen. The Taliban always wanted to talk to the US. So evidently behind the scenes there is some talk going on, but boy, it's not looking very wonderful in Afghanistan at the moment. So who knows what goes on? We people here, oh, that's another news. The fake news thing is really getting some momentum in the US. A lot of the newspapers have banded together to decry the bad words coming from the president about what is reported. The New York Times has not joined them, but there's about 350 newspapers that are all campaigning, saying that they are not reporting fake news, that they report what they see, etc., etc. So it all goes on, and it's so hard to know what's true and what's not true. So I haven't really talked much about that. In fact, I haven't really read much about that. It's you'd think that there'd be some more significant things going on. There's certainly significant things going on in New Zealand. The parliamentarians are talking about the euthanasia bill, and again in the paper there's quite a lot of discussion from both sides on the euthanasia bill. Some very good points being brought out from both of them, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. It's a very, very difficult topic. All right, so that's about it. There's some quite interesting articles, but they're very lengthy, and I was a bit late getting up this morning. I must have needed my sleep to get the brain and the memory going.
Yes, it's sounding good today.
All right, so is there anybody with anything from you guys out there? I'll just give a pause and see what's going on. Nothing's come through on streaming yet. I hope we're still streaming. Yes, we are. In fact, the posts that have gone on there, I better change the dates on them. I noticed this morning when I put the date, the 17th of August, that there were quite a few there from a few days ago, so I had to change the dates on those. Must have been laying asleep, you reckon. Anyway, this is Gulf Harbour Radio. Is anybody out there with a signal report, which would be useful to let me know what's going on in Fiji? We did have a trial yesterday, and it did look like 82987 was better. So I think in future, folks, I'll give it a few days, but And what we'll likely do is move to 8297. So please, if you don't hear anything on 8752, go to that one. I have to say it a few days in a row because people who are not listening today maybe will not know what's going on. We are, of course, only working 5 days a week at the moment because there's not much happening out there. So 5 days a week we will not be on any frequency Saturday or Sunday, but we will be back on Monday. We will be on 8752, but if you don't find us here, we will be on 8297. Hope that's got through. Right, I'll give a pause. Is there anybody with anything? Well, there's a few there, and you all jumbled up together. I think I heard Sarani. Was that you? Oh, thank you very much for that. Good copy. And where did you say you were? Oh, okay. Yep, I wondered whether you'd left yet. So you're currently still in Noumea and heading up to PV next week. All right. It'd be interesting to hear what he's got to say about next week because he hasn't been very enthusiastic about next week up there in your part of the world. All right, there was a couple in behind Sarani. Who was that?
Toranui was there.
I think Toranui was there, but boy, you've been light lately, Graham. Toranui. Well, I know that you are there, and I heard the word this morning, but that was about it. So, unfortunately, I will need a relay on that one, but it would be good to know what's going on down there in Kendavu, propagation-wise. Could anybody relay?
Relay?
Go ahead, relay. You're very strong.
Toranui, go ahead.
That's Harry, isn't it?
You're in Kendavu, 30% cloud cover, rain and a very light southeast wind. Is that affirmative?
Yeah.
80% cloud cover. Okay, anything else? All good on board. Back to you, Patricia.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. You're booming in as usual. Yeah, don't see that rain there, but it is a lot of cloud down around, well, all of Fiji really. So they've got a bit of rain. Well, I think he'd probably be quite happy about that because I think their tanks were needing a bit of rain. All right, thank you for that. Was there anybody else? Excel, good morning to you. Go ahead. Whereabouts are you? Oh, that sounds good. So, Vavau, Port Morel, are they still charging for anchoring at Port Morel, over? It always happens, doesn't it? When I say good signal, it fades away. There has been a lot of fade on, well, more on the higher frequencies, but a lot of fade has been around the band. But anyway, so you're hearing us well. Well, that's a good start for the day. So with that, we've got, we haven't heard anyone from Fiji, but we've got Tonga and
Kendavu.
Kendavu. Well, that's true, yeah. I never think of Kendavu as really being in proper Fiji because it's, I sort of think of Fiji as being, the big islands. All right, I am going to pass the microphone and we'll see what the weather outlook is for the weekend.
I think you need more sleep. I mean, what about the WOW? You consider them part of Fiji?
Well, yeah, that's sort of difficult too.
All right, good morning, everybody. And Graham on Toranui. I don't know if there's something wrong with your rig, Graham. You have always been very, very strong, and I know conditions are poor, so it could just be that, but I don't know. You may want to think about double checking because you went from a super good signal to hardly understandable. So anyway, good morning, everybody. And being Friday, what I'm going to do on these Fridays is to give you a little bit bigger broad picture. And then I decided to give you winds for the weekend. Since we're not going to be on the radio for Saturday and Sunday, at least that'll give you an idea of what I think is going to happen. It might happen, but that's the deal. So anyway, all I can say for New Zealand is, wow, we are under a mass of troughs and frontal bands. The culprit is a 500 millibar shortwave. New Zealand is under the eastern side of the axis. So remember, a upper level shortwave looks like an upside down U. Draw a line north-south through the center, and that's obviously the axis. To the right of that line is where the upflow occurs, and on the surface is where the lows typically form. Not always, but that 99% of the time that's where they form. Now, from New Zealand to the islands, all of the 500 flow is zonal. There are no troughs, there's no ridges, so in other words, all the air is going west to east. So as a result, all that's there is, on the surface, all that's there is an elongated area of virtually no isobars. So if you were north of 25 and south of 20, you'd have pretty mellow conditions. Now, by lunch on Saturday, which is the 18th, we start to see a little action in the subtropics. Cyclonic flow starts to emerge, and the isobars start to get closer, and winds from New Zealand to 25 south become southwesterlies. Now, by lunch on Sunday, that all goes away, and again, we'll see very little pressure gradient from all the way from 30 south up to Fiji or Tonga. Now, New Zealand at that time gets straddled by two depressions. They're fairly potent, both estimated to be about 995 millibar, 995. However, the westernmost depression, that's the one that's going to grow and grow until by midnight we will probably have cyclonic flow all the way up to New Caledonia and the first frontal band nearly over New Zealand. So that's by lunch on Sunday. Now by Monday, that's the 20th, it all hits the fan over New Cal, with southwest wind clashing with mostly northeast wind over New Cal. So what is going to cause this? As you can guess, the next shortwave trough invades the Tasman and the Coral Sea. Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, the vorticity or the spin is such that it grows that depression I talked about and creates a very ugly looking trough that goes from New Cal up to the Solomons. Now, come Tuesday morning next week, the trough and associated frontal band probably will lie over Vanuatu. Now, the front, having started near New Zealand, runs north-northwest to make that link. Now, from this point in time, I don't think I'm going to offer any more opinions on what's going to happen, as we're on the outer edge of any semblance of forecasting accuracy. We're getting out there in time. Those in Vanuatu, like Gracious Lady, who wants to go west, may be able to do so as a new ridge starts to push into that area, but that's going to be, I think, on Wednesday. On Tuesday, which I believe was their kickoff date, I don't think that's going to be a good idea. So, again, as here at Gulf Harbor Radio, we won't be chatting with you until Monday. We'll start now, and I'll give you the winds, what I think they're going to be for the next couple of days over each of the island groups. And we'll first start looking at Tonga. So to begin with, Tonga today has got, they've got a trough over Vavau. It's quite evident on satellite imagery. It's not a major trough, but it's there, and it also affects Nui Tupatapu, New Potatoes, there to the north. Winds by lunch should be southeast in about the 15 knot range. In Vavau now, they look to pick up to maybe the 20 knot range a little bit later today. Now Saturday, I expect to see a shift to near southerly winds, about 10 to 15 knots, shifting maybe south-southeast a little bit later. On Sunday, the winds back to east-southeast, maybe even east, and they'll be fairly light, 10 to 15 knots. Now they veer a bit later on Sunday to southeast, 10 to 15. And on Monday, I think we'll see another shift, easterlies in the 15-knot range. Moving over to Fiji, today we've got a fair amount of wind. In fact, there is a wind warning for Vatuira Pass and northern Vanuatu waters. And you could expect southeast 20 to 25 in those areas. And of course, they'll be bringing rough seas. Now, for the rest of Fiji, I think southeast about 15 to 20. Now, Saturday, I see a shift to the northeast. I believe that's going to happen, a shift to the northeast, and maybe about 10 to 15 knots. However, it'll be east to east-southeast near Savu Savu and the northern Lao. So that little area up there will be slightly different wind. Later on Saturday, western Fiji may be looking at west to west-southwest winds about 10 to 15, while the central to the eastern areas may be looking at north to northeast winds, still pretty light air. Now on Sunday, the western areas, south-southeast in the 15-knot range, but westerlies if you're in the southern Lao. And Savu Savu, Rambi area, southeast winds around 15, so it's all over. Now, around dinner time on Sunday, I think almost everywhere, southeast about 15 knots. And finally on Monday, southeast 15 to 20, and of course later than this if you're in the wind shadow areas. So those of you that are in the eastern part of the Asauas or Muscat, you get a lot of protection there, or the Nandi area. You're not getting those kind of winds, of course. But this is out, everything I give you is out in open water. Over to Vanuatu now, that shows cloud in the central areas this morning on the satellite loop. Fairly nice elsewhere, north and south of that. Winds today, east-southeast around 15, but lighter if you're down toward Anisham and Tanna. On Saturday, southeast 15 to 20, I would say from Malakula northwards, but south of there, southeast in the 10-knot range, a little bit lighter. And on Sunday, southeast up to 20 for the banks and the Torres, east-southeast in the 15-knot range from south of the banks to Malakula, so a little bit lighter. And much lighter air from Port Vila to the south. I would say southeast about 10 knots or so. Now, I see a major shift on Monday, northeast winds in the 15-knot range. Now, these winds are preceding the frontal band that at that time will be over New Caledonia and the Loyalties. So the altitude that are sailing west to get to Vanuatu, I think need to be in, as Patricia said, by around lunchtime on Monday. So let's hope that's the timing. Now the timing could be different. So don't blame me if it comes a little sooner. New Caledonia now, the clouds come and go on the loop. Today variable winds around 5 knots. Looks like a pretty good day for moving about, exploring the old lagoon. Saturday, about the same, but the winds are starting to shift to become southerlies around 10 knots. On Sunday, still pretty light air, but everything is trying to shift to become northeasterlies, and again, that is preceding the frontal band. And Monday, here comes the front. Fresh winds to 20 knots, north to northwest winds, and rain, lots of rain. So you can fill your water tanks if you haven't already. Later on Monday, we could be looking at west to west-northwest winds, about 15 to 20, and I think we'll still be having rain at that time as well, as that system goes through and heads toward Vanuatu. So there you go. That's what I see for the weekend, including Monday. So we'll find out if I'm right or not. But anyway, at least it gives you an idea. And we will talk to you Monday. So any questions or comments, come now. And here's Leadfoot, who's had plenty of sleep.
I keep forgetting to remind Sarani to stock up on several of the wonderful shopping bags that they have at the supermarkets at Kazinu, because coming back to New Zealand we will not be able to get plastic bags at the supermarkets within the next few months. So it's always a good thing. Those bags in New Caledonia, they're wonderful. They're slightly bigger than the ones you get in French Polynesia, and they're strong and they're really good and they're lovely and colourful. So make sure you bring a few of those back. All right, is there anybody with any weather questions? Any relays for anybody with any weather questions? Well, you must have covered the topic quite well then.
I think they went to sleep.
They went to sleep, you reckon?
Yeah, the sleep article
Yeah, stocking up for the weekend. All right. Actually, that sleep article really is interesting. I'll have a good study of it because it does affect cruises. You know, when you're on passage and if you get sleep deprived, what that does to your decision-making accuracy. So I'm going to have a good study of that because it is an interesting one, particularly.
You like the single-handers, they just sleep anyway.
Yeah, the single-handers sleep anyway. But, yeah, no, it is an interesting one, and it does, well, I'll tell you what they could do to get good sleep is read some of your weather articles. You know?
Oh, no, that's...
All right, folks, if you really, really need to get some good sleep in, on the website, ghradio.co.nz, if you click on the weather, there are a whole series of very interesting, very educational, very educational weather papers, and particularly for those that are starting to think of the trip south and what features to look at, then it would be good just to get the odd bit of reading in when these fronts come through and you haven't got much else to do. All right, we'll leave you for a very good weekend. I tell you what, if you looked outside our window today, you wouldn't be thinking it's going to be very nice, but I am assured by the Met Service that Sunday is going to be lovely and sunny, so that will be good for us. Have a good weekend, everybody, and the frequency is now all yours.